Blackburn George, football fans, Gooners, welcome to the post-Newcastle edition of the Positively Uncensored Arsenal podcast. How are you, George? Don't laugh. Don't tell me you're shocked, surprised. How are you? Well, we'll get there, George. Before we even get there, let me first of all tell our faithful listeners that you and I, this podcast has been making some progress. Oh, it's a minor podcast, but we started a year ago, and I was going through the stats on YouTube, and we were for weeks 1 subscriber, and today we are now 1 subscriber, 1 person away from 100 subscribers. So people, get on board. We have started picking up some traction. And clearly, people now are taking heed of some of the things we have to say. We don't go with the usual narrative. We don't go with usual PR and fake spin. And people are beginning to take notice of that. And our listenership, of course, has been improving. So, like and subscribe, and our hardy souls that have supported us. We are making progress. But unlike Arsenal. Unlike Arsenal, yesterday, George, defeat at Newcastle, a comprehensive defeat belied by the scoreline. Don't you think?
Shocking, wasn't it?
I don't know how to say it. Was I in a state of total shock? I'm not sure. But what about you?
Well, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, at one point I said, I wish I was a coach, because I have no idea why this team is being dominated by Newcastle. I couldn't. Why was it happening? There's no reason for it. Mm-hmm. And the reason it turned out, when we saw Granit Xhaka do his interview, he says the team didn't adhere to the coach's game plan. They did their own thing all over the pitch. Now, I'm no big fan of Arteta, but I'm not going to blame him for that. And I've no reason to doubt Granit Xhaka. He was absolutely furious. He was gutted with the performance of the team. He said that the coach had given them the good instructions and they just haven't followed them. Now, that's a problem. It's a twofold problem. First of all, that the players don't do what they're told. And secondly, that Arteta, we thought he had the total authority, and the players did everything they were told. So now we've found out that they don't do what they're told. That's a problem, because that was the main thing he had going for him, that the players did what they were told and followed his instructions. Whether they were right or wrong, at least they were doing what they were told, and all behind him. Now, if it turns out they didn't, that's a problem.
George, I'm not sure about this, but, I always like to start with the stats. Let me share this with the audience. And I know that the stats don't give an insight, but for the first time in my life, Newcastle outpossessed us. When I say life, I you know what I mean, my modern Arsenal life. 4 shots on targets, they outshot us 16 shots. More touches, more passes. They out-tackled us. More corners. George, I have never seen this as the modern Arsenal. I've never seen Newcastle outplay us. I don't know what the plan was, but from the very minute I saw St. Maximin taking on Tomiyasu and then Joe Linton joining him, when I see Bruno Guimaraes spraying passes, when I saw our back four playing very narrow, I had a bad feeling. I don't know about you. Do you see what I'm getting at?
It couldn't have been worse for me. I mean, Xhaka apart, nobody was anywhere near their level. Ben White and Gabriel were just booting the ball up the field. The clearances were frantic. If we played it into midfield, they lost it immediately. Nobody was holding onto the ball, again, other than Xhaka. Everything that bloody Ramsdale was...
Oh, God, George.
Like Bambi on ice. He was giving us all heart failures. Tomisako, he was getting skinned right, left, and centre. Mm-hmm. Tavares did better than him.
Yes, he did. I mean, Tavares didn't make any major errors, in my opinion.
No, Odegaard couldn't bloody keep hold of the ball. The passing was awful. The front three were useless. Emile Smith-Rowe may as well not have played.
Well, I agree with you on that.
Martinelli made a difference, but he loses the ball a lot as well. You know, he runs up blind alleys. He's a talent, but, you know, it comes at a cost, and that cost is possession of the football. It was just as bad as it could be, as bad as we've seen, and very disappointing. And heartbreaking, really, because we had such an opportunity a few weeks ago. But if we lose to Everton, and there's a good likelihood we will, if they need to get anything out of the game.
That is my fear. That is my fear. Go ahead.
We will have lost 6 of our last 9 Premier League games.
Wow. Yes, you're correct. 1-3, lost 6. That would be in the last 10 games would have lost 7.
Yeah.
No. 3 back to back, and then yes, another 3. Yes, 6. You're right, George. You're absolutely right. Go ahead.
Now that can't be dressed up as progress. No matter how hard you try, no matter how willing you are to join in with the PR, that cannot be dressed up as progress. The process ain't working, and we can't use the tried and trusted excuses of they're not his players. I'm sorry, they are.
Yeah.
They fucking are, mate. They're all your players. You wanted every single one of them. There wasn't a player on the pitch that he hasn't either bought or extended. The only one was Lacazette, and he was an emergency at the end that we went to when we were throwing the kitchen sink. And the kitchen sink even fell on our toes and bruised them. So, well, it was poor.
George, I recall in our last podcast, we both agreed, you explained it in detail, that our defending would have been our Achilles heel. And I don't know about you, but I was surprised to see both Gabriel. I knew Ben White. We both knew Ben White would have been coming back, but we had a doubt about Gabriel. And of course, we expected Tommy to play right. And of course, the young fella Tavares was playing left back. That was, But George, I was concerned because we saw one player that came off holding the back of his thigh. That is Gabriel. And we knew Ben White was coming back from injury. And both Callum Wilson and the manager said they knew we had injuries. This is their post-game comments. And they felt that they put pressure on us, we would crumble. So I don't know if it was based on the things that you and I said post Spurs. I wasn't sure. I wasn't surprised that we came under so much stress. Do you get my drift?
Yeah, but what could he do?
Mm-hmm.
What else could he do? He had to play them. If they were fit enough to start, he had to play them. If they weren't fit enough to start, if they were just fit enough to get on the field and not break down, he had to play them. I don't see the alternative. I'm not going to criticise him for that. What else could he do? Who else would he play? Can't play Rob Holding. He's got suspended. Nobody else.
Nobody else.
So
and he has nobody else as a central defender.
No. What else can he do?
But why were they so? Well, my question to you:
Look,
were they?
Shotta,
Were they? Were
let me just say this.
yeah? Go ahead.
I'm not complaining about the defending. It
Okay.
might not have been up to scratch. It might not have been. They might not have been at the best. The problem was the passing, not the defending.
The
The
passing.
problem was the panic, the total lack of, how would you call it, calm on the ball, composure. There was none. It was awful. Both of them, shocking.
Yes, I remember Ben White
defending. That was okay. No, Ben White. All right, Ben White scored an own goal. These things happen. He had to go for it. If he hadn't scored it, Wilson certainly would. So I don't really have a problem with that. But it was a lack of composure, the lack of self-belief, lack of belief in the system, whatever you want to call it. It was a lack of something, and it was horrible to watch.
I think you're touching on something there, George, because I think it was lack of self-belief. Regardless of whatever plan that Teta put there, and I listened to Xhaka, he said that if you come to the game and you're not ready, whether you're 10, 30, or 35 years old, you should sit on the bench. Don't come on the field. Don't get nervous. But I think that the players lacked the conviction, lacked the confidence. Because when Ben White, the first thing very early in the first half, Ben White has to be hauling down Callum Wilson on a one-on-one. It tells you that he doesn't trust himself to get in a one-on-one battle. Do you recall that episode?
I do. But, he's passing out. He was fucking out. You're just giving up possession time and time again. I mean, there was one point where a 10-minute period, it was 80% possession to fucking Newcastle. We're not talking Manchester City here. We're talking to Newcastle, one of the teams with the lowest possession rates in the league.
That's my point. They dominated us in the first half in particular. And I think the damage was done. And you know why the damage was done in the first half, George? When, after repeatedly skinning Tommy, I think it was in 30-something minutes, Tommy went down holding the back of his thigh. I thought it was...
And I'll tell you what it is. Thank fuck for that, because Cedric was lots better than Tommy Assen.
Yes.
And is better, in my opinion. All this excitement about what a great buy he's been, I don't see it myself. He's half decent. That's it. Ben White, that's shocking from a guy that you've paid £50 million for because he's good on the ball, hoofing it to the opposition time after time after time. What's all that about? £50 million, not for a defender, for someone who can defend but is good on the ball playing out. That's why you paid £50 million for him. You didn't pay £50 million because he's Vidic or John Terry.
Right.
No, we paid £50 million because he was supposed to be good on the ball and could come out with the ball and hold on to it and keep possession and build up play. And when that £50 million player is just hoofing it up the field, hopefully, and Ramsdale's distribution, fucking Jesus.
Yep.
He's supposed to be good at kicking. He's shocking. Shocking.
That was shocking yesterday, George. He was shocking last evening. And then when he flapped at that cross, I was like, what the fuck are you doing, Ramsdale? Sorry for my French, guys. But I'm like, you're flapping here. This is a regulation cross at about waist height. And Ben White had to be hoofing it out away because you flapped at the cross. I mean, can central defenders be any confident when your goalkeeper is looking so shaky? You recall that?
I do, and I'm nearly kicking his own net at one point.
Well,
look, it was horrible, Shotta. All round, it was horrible. Everybody failed. Everybody. Like I say, apart from maybe Xhaka, who was okay, nothing more than okay. But I don't suppose you can expect much when everybody else is playing like that. What's he going to do? Pick the ball up off the central defenders and dribble through the midfield and play a 1-2 with himself and slot one in. So, he's not even that type of player. All he could do was his job, which he did okay. Not brilliant, okay. And he was the only one on the team. And I give him a 6 out of 10. Nobody else would have got even a 4.
Well, I thought El Nene was his usual steady self, George.
Well, I don't even think he had a good game. He went into his shell. It was horrible the way it was. So negative in protecting the ball. Normally, he's good on the ball. He gets the ball, passes it, bum, bum, bum. He looked to be doing the same thing yesterday, but he wasn't. He was getting it and taking an easy option. He wasn't running. He didn't carry it. He didn't look to progress the ball. He looked to play it backwards or sideways. And okay, so he didn't lose the ball as often as the other, but we did nothing with it. And when you pass it backwards and you're being pressed, that builds up pressure on you.
Yes.
So he didn't do anything to alleviate the pressure. At least Xhaka kept playing his usual left-footed pass out to the left wing that almost it's monotonously he plays, but at least he plays it and it's accurate and it progresses us up the pitch. El Neni wasn't doing any of that, and he has been until yesterday. He has been progressive. He has been playing the ball forward more. But yesterday he was hopeless as well.
The other thing I observed in the first half, George, is how they use the old classic 1-2 three-man combination to befuddle us on either flanks. And we were like, what? I see Gabriel arguing and remonstrating and carrying on with his players. And I was like, I mean, this is a typical Newcastle running the old classic 1-2 with a third man run on your asses when it's necessary and creating chances, especially in the first half. I don't know if you noticed that as well, George.
I didn't particularly, to be honest. I just noticed they were outplaying us, and I thought, why are these guys outplaying us? We've got better players. We should be outplaying them. It was just. I don't think there's much point looking too deep into it, because you can't. I would blame the tactics, but I believe that the tactics weren't Mikel's, so I'm not going to blame him for it. Although he has to bear some responsibility, obviously, for what's gone on up until this point. Whatever's ingrained into them is down to him. But last night, I'm going to give him a bit of a pass, because you cannot blame the manager for Ben White getting the ball and hoofing it, for Smith Rowe being completely useless, for Eddie running around like a bloody headless chicken, for Saka not being much better. I mean, Pepe was shocking when he came on, and he wasn't any worse than Saka had been all game. Everybody to a man was playing below the best. Now, ultimately, it's the manager's responsibility. If that's happening week in, week out, it becomes the manager's responsibility. You can't, you have to accept that. But as a one-off, I think the players were more culpable than the manager last night.
Well,
and I don't want to say that. I don't want to say it, because my opinion on Arteta.
Yeah, everybody knows that. Well, most people should know that, but we are trying to be rational. George, I'm not going to let you get away with this. I'm going to spend another few minutes on this. But in the second half, George, I want to be balanced. Look at these figures. Our possession improved. Our passing improved. But of course, if you recall, Newcastle had more shots, had more chances. That's when they got their goals. 3 shots on target and so on. Even that open goal that they missed towards the end, I suppose that counts as the 3 shots on target. So I think, well, the thing that I wanted to raise with you before I leave this point is that I think this is typical Arsenal, falling behind, and then the players were freer and seemed to get a better hold on the ball, and more passes, and were trying to be creative. Martinelli came on, and he was more effective. Down ESR was, as you pointed out, we don't have to beat that one to death. What was your thought of the second half after those stats?
Well, it's just a bit frantic, wasn't it? Martinelli did make a difference, but they won the game, so they sort of sat back again. We didn't create anything. Did you ever think we were going to score? We didn't look like scoring.
No, I didn't think so, George, actually.
I I don't even understand how we've got to have more possession than them in the second half, because it certainly didn't look that way. It certainly wasn't meaningful possession.
Yes.
So it didn't get better. You throw on a load of forward players.
Yes.
And that was it, basically.
Took off Tavares, put on Lacazette, and there was another player on. I'm not. This is not important. George, the thing is that the Arteta outers have been having a field day, and some of them are our fans. But they have a point in, and I wanted your reaction. 37 game, only 37 big chances. Orbino, he's a self-confessed Arsenal fan. We have lost 13 games in the Premier League season. The joint most in any Premier League season. The same point we made all season since December, that we only had one competition, while our contenders were flailing around. We only had one. We only had one game per week. What are the Arteta outers getting wrong? I know they're right. They're right on certain. And what are they getting right? Let's just be balanced. Your thoughts.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I know who's right and who's wrong. Mm-hmm. Both sides. You can make an argument for both sides. Mm-hmm. The argument for backing Arteta becomes weaker and weaker as time goes on. But the same arguments that, give him time, he's a young manager, young squad, blah, blah, blah. But just look at the way we play. Shocking. Look at what we've done in the last run-in. 9 games, probably 6 losses, or 5 anyway. So we're losing more than we're winning, even if we manage to beat Everton. The buys are looking less and less like good buys by the end of the season. The buys that we thought were good buys, maybe some of them now should be goodbyes rather than.
I'm going to have to use that at some time, George. Go ahead.
So think about it. Ramsdale, he doesn't look a great buy now, does he? Ben White looks £50 million, looks a lot for someone who just hoops the ball away. Tomisako, he can never stay fit, and he's not that good when he is fit. Lukongo can't get a kick of the ball. So what they were using in his defence at the beginning, the same things can now be used against him at the end. It's a horrible situation, isn't it? Divided, split fan base. We've got a summer to look forward to, constantly moaning and then getting excited. Who are we going to buy out of the Champions League? They were looking at Gabriel Jesus, and I even saw Gundogan and Sterling mentioned, just as if.
Well, but as somebody I follow on Twitter says, and we follow each other, he's saying that he was saying Arteta will never get top 4, and that's a very strong statement. But he says, adding to the pain, they made sure any Arteta out protests are pointless because they handed him a new contract after back-to-back defeats. Well, it's after back-to-back defeats against Palace, Brighton, and Southampton. There's no way they don't get off, George, on seeing fans suffer. And I think that's a very extreme statement. About the latter part.
So do I. But he's right. They've taken out the equation, Arteta out. That's off the table now. It's off the table. There's no point us going on about it. No point us complaining about it. I said on Twitter this morning, what we're going to do? Fly airplanes, bed sheets, A4? I hope not, because that's ridiculous. What sort of a club does that? What sort of a Tuppence Halfpenny club does that? And we've done it once to our greatest ever manager. I certainly never want to see it again, whether it's Arteta or not. So it's a problem. and it's a problem going forward. And I don't know where we go from here. I think
Well,
we'll
George,
stay
but
where we
something
are, really, at best, fifth. We can get fifth next year, we've probably done well.
you are not a very optimistic camper here, but surely, George, you can't keep repeating the same road, the same, you know, practice. Can't repeating the same old mistakes. I'm trying to choose my words here because what I see happening, George. We're buying. He's inclined to buy defenders, and he's gonna buy defenders again. Aaron Hickey's no mistake. I don't know what he's gonna do with right back, and I don't know if he's going to fix the attack, George. The point something that struck me again is something that is so classic of English football. Oh, set up all the defenders and then you can fix the attack. We went last year and bought all these expensive defenders, Ben White. We bought Tavares. You know what I mean?
It got worse. Let in more goals.
Exactly. So where are we going to go from here?
I don't know. Nobody knows, Shotta. It's speculation's pointless as well, because until we see how much money Kroenke's going to put up into the kitty, that'll make a difference. You know, that'll make as much of a difference as to the quality of players we can get as whether we're in the Champions League or not. So,
George.
Let's just wait and see where it goes.
Yes,
we've all summer to speculate on that, haven't we?
It'll be a long, bitter summer. But before we get there, we had Everton on Sunday, George. And to be honest, we mentioned it and alluded to it before. And we're not going to do a preview. We never. No, we probably will. But Georgia fighting for their lives. They I don't know. This is the ultimate.
Yeah, we'll be lucky to beat them.
So much money. Go ahead, George.
We'll be lucky to beat them on Sunday. I think they start favourites now. Particularly if they need something out of the game. We'll have to see. But at the moment, I don't care because I'm just so fed up with the performance from yesterday. Not the fact that we've come fifth. We probably should be fifth anyway. United should be in the top four and they're not, but Spurs are in instead. But that doesn't change the fact that we probably should be fifth. But it's the manner of that shocking collapse towards the end of the season and the performances. And people keep talking about the United, the Chelsea, and the West Ham game. Let's be fair here. We didn't play well in any of those games.
Yes,
we didn't. They were just bad. And I know that sounds so negative. Oh, you only get credit every time we win. It's because they've played bad. But they didn't play bad. We didn't play well.
And Chelsea was showing that Champions League hangover. They weren't sharp. I mean, but we beat them and let's take it. I mean, I'm not going to. But you're right. Let's not hammer that away. But yes, I think the players are. Well, first of all, your prognosis and your predictions have been general. Not all the time, George. But remember, you said that we were starting off second best to Newcastle. I don't know why you're so shocked or so surprised, right? You talked in the last podcast. You.
I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked, Shotta. I'm shocked by the performance, not by the results at all.
Very important qualification.
I didn't expect us to win. I just didn't expect us to play like that. But at least try and win. At least put some fight up. But anyway,
no, George. That's very important. Yes, you didn't expect such a. It's a performance that you're concerned about.
Yes. As ever, Shotta, I'm consistent. I'm always about performance. The results can skew the performance. You can play well and lose, and you can play badly and win. But you should always look at the performance because in the end, that's what will determine how many games you win consistently. And our last 9 games, our performances have been poor. All of them.
Well, on that note, George, I'm going to leave it there.
Good.
You're not happy with the performance. Terrible. I am. It was terrible. It was. So anyway, I won't belabor the point. It doesn't put us in a good mood for Everton. And George, that point I want to make, the players look shocked. Psychologically, they look shocked, George. The way they trudged off the field, they could barely take themselves off the field. On my feed, they took, and even on the promo.
I don't get that. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it if you're unlucky. If you've put in a good shift, you've done your best, and you've not got there. What are they shocked at? Their own performance. That's what they should be shocked about. That's why they should be dejected. Not that they've lost. The reason they've lost. You could see Xhaka in that interview last night. He was really, really disappointed with a lot of the players. And if you wheel Xhaka out for the interview on Sky Sports, do so at your own risk.
Right.
And that's what they did. They shouldn't have sent him out,
Well, he probably was the only one willing to talk. The rest of them were
probably. But if you send him out, don't expect him to toe the line and come out with the PR bullshit that most of them would come out with. I thought Mikel was a bit lucky because Xhaka came out in his corner.
Yes.
And he helped him there. Now,
yes.
I believe he's done it genuinely. I don't believe it was to get in good with the manager or, keep on the right side of the manager. I think it was his genuine thoughts. You could see it in his face.
Yes.
You could see it.
Well, George, let's end it that way. We have Everton on Sunday. We're not optimistic about this, but I urge you to like and subscribe. We're not towing any agenda. We're not have any fake narrative here. Just telling you like it is. Thanks, George. Thanks, everyone, for listening and helping us to grow. Bye, my friend.